Hello friends, how's it going? We're about a week into the new set for Secluded Springs. I hope you guys have been doing alright with ranked. If you guys are gunning for Master Ball or Ultra Ball, whatever it may be, this video is going to go over what the top decks have been doing in the current meta in the tournament format. Now, the tournament format isn't always the best way to compare to the ranked environment, but it's still a good way to see how certain decks play against other decks since we have so much metadata, and we'll be going over all the metadata from the first bit of tournaments that happened over this weekend. So the thing that I was most interested in was if Suicune was actually going to be meta this season, because I knew it was going to be good. Drawing cards is always good, but I was also wondering if it'd be able to crack the top 5 or even the top 3 in decks in the meta, just because it doesn't seem, on paper, like to me, it just doesn't look that good, just because it takes 2 energy to attack, 2 energy to retreat, and you're only drawing cards at the end of your turn, so it's not like Sylveon where you're constantly drawing and just snowballs into each other with evolving into Sylveon, and then you find a research, and then you do your research, you find a Pokeball, or you find another Sylveon, and then you keep drawing and drawing and drawing. So Suicune kind of seemed like a more balanced way to draw cards, and I didn't know if balance was going to be good enough in a game full of OP strats and OP cards. But yeah, we have our first set of decks, and the first one that I was going to look at is obviously Suicune. So Suicune actually has a almost 13% share. So it was the most popular deck this week / this weekend. It was the most popular deck that people were using. So 13% of people were using Suicune Greninja. So it seems like Greninja was the best pairing, but there's another pairing that might be better actually. We'll talk about it later. So it was the most popular deck, and it won 55% of games. So it's actually doing really well against everyone else. So let's check how the matchup spread goes for it. So mirror match, it's literally 50-50. It shows 49%, but mirror match is gonna go 50-50 for the most part. Here's a bad thing about Suicune Greninja. It's doing really bad against Giratina Darkrai. And we all know Giratina Darkrai is like the LeBron James of Pokemon Pocket. It just doesn't stop, it's so consistent. And that's kind of a bad sign that Suicune Greninja is not doing well against Giratina Darkrai, because that just gives people more of a reason to play Giratina Darkrai. If Suicune Greninja is the most popular deck, then people are gonna naturally want to counter it. So we might see more Giratina Darkrai coming out. Funny enough, it's also looking like it doesn't do too well against Espeon Sylveon. So it's under 50% winning against Espeon Sylveon, which is also one of the most popular decks. So it's kind of interesting that this is the most popular deck, but it has a losing matchup against 2 top decks here. Interesting enough, it does have a good matchup against Greninja Oricorio. Looks like it beats Savali Pichu. 50-50 against Arceus Pichu. I actually thought that the Arceus Pichu Oricorio does really well with it. At least for me, it was doing really well. In ranked, I actually I did extremely well with the Turbo Arceus Pichu Oricorio Zero Aura deck against Suicune. I kind of predicted, I felt like everyone would be using Suicune, so I wanted to use some type of lightning deck just to get that type advantage. And I was able to get back into Master Ball within literally 21 matches. I went 18-3 to start, and half the decks I won against were against Suicune decks. Like, you literally 2-shot a Suicune with Oricorio or Zero Aura, so it felt really easy. So it's interesting that this only won 50% of the time in the tournament format. Looks like Suicune Greninja does really well against Buzzwole though, which is gonna be interesting because if Giratina Darkrai ends up being super popular, naturally people are gonna wanna use Buzzwole to try to counter it, because Buzzwole is pretty decent against Giratina Darkrai. But if Buzzwole does well against Giratina Darkrai, and then we get a bunch of Buzzwole decks again, people will just start using Suicune Greninja again because it's good against Buzzwole Pheromosa. So we kind of get this rock, paper, scissors thing going on. Let's see, it does well against this Suicune Giratina build. It does really well against Guzzlord, 75% win percentage against Guzzlord. So we might actually see Guzzlord be out of the meta this season. It's kind of been hanging around in the top 5, like fringe top 5 in the past 2 seasons, but it looks like it's doing really bad against Suicune Greninja. I can't explain why. Like, that's actually interesting how it does well against it, because I feel like Guzzlord would at least go 50-50, but I didn't think it'd be losing the matchup that bad against it. Oh, this is interesting. Suicune Greninja does really bad against Flareon. How is that possible if it has type advantage? I wonder why. That's really interesting. I know it's not the biggest sample size, 4 and 12, but that's still very interesting that Flareon Eevee was doing really well against it. Even this Raikou Arceus deck, 5 and 8 against it. I don't think Raikou's that good, and it looks like it was struggling against Raikou as well. That's strange. The Sylveon Greninja deck, they went 8 and 1 against it. So last season, Sylveon Greninja kind of went super irrelevant because Espeon destroyed it, and now it's getting destroyed by Suicune. So I think we might see the death of the Sylveon Greninja Giratina deck for good. Let's see how. Yeah, it seems like the Suicune Greninja deck does really well against a lot of decks. Like, here's a lot of 3-0s against Entei Magby, a different Buzzwole Celesteal deck, the Snorlax Ho-Oh deck, Magnezone Raikou, Poliwrath. So yeah, it looks like this Suicune deck with Greninja has been doing pretty well, but it does bad against the meta decks, 2 of the meta decks. So I don't know if, we'll see how it goes next week. We'll do another video next week, next Monday, to see how it does. I feel like it's gonna get less popular next week. Now that people are looking at this, all this information is available for anyone if you go on Limitless. And I know people are gonna be looking at this and seeing, oh, Giratina Darkrai wins against it a lot. So people are gonna be playing Giratina Darkrai a lot next. So if you want to try to forecast how it's gonna go next week, playing something that counters Giratina Darkrai might be the best move, although there's not that many counters for it to begin with. As you can see here, Giratina Darkrai was the second most popular deck this week. Almost 10% of players were using it, and it has a very high percentage. Out of the top 7 decks that were used, Giratina Darkrai had the highest win percentage. We are not seeing the death of this deck. This deck is just so good. It has no drawbacks, really. Its losing matchups aren't even that bad. As we can see, 62, 63, we already saw that, 63% win percentage against Suicune, 60% win percentage against Espeon. Here's the mirror match. Let's see who it does bad against. This is interesting. It does bad against this Suicune Giratina build. 11 and 21 against this build. So if you're trying to counter Giratina Darkrai, this might be the deck to use, and we'll look at it a little later. This is a deck I wanted to talk about most, and I wanted to highlight this the most in this video. But yeah, let's look at, oh, Greninja Oricorio. Wow, Giratina Darkrai went 5 and 21 against the Greninja Oricorio build. That's a crazy number. I need to see what the best finish is. This guy went 12 and 1. Let's see his list. So he went 2 Froakie, a Frogadier, 2 Greninja, 2 Oricorio, and 1 Giratina. And this seems to be killing Darkrai Giratina. That's interesting. I wonder how, because you know what? I've noticed that Giratina Darkrai has actually been becoming really good. This guy wasn't even running Guzzlord. I wonder how he was beating these Darkrai Giratina decks so well, because I feel like Giratina Darkrai has been beating Oricorio a lot just because they've been using Poison Barb or a Rocky Helmet to battle the Oricorio, but I don't know, this guy's just really good, I suppose. Let's see, let's go back to the Giratina Darkrai matchups. It destroys Raikou, it destroys Flareon. This deck doesn't play too often, so we won't even really talk about that. The Suicune Melodic deck. Yeah, so that's interesting to see Giratina Darkrai do really bad against whatever the Suicune Giratina build is. Let's honestly take a look at that now. That's something I wanted to talk about most. So, the 8th most used deck, only a 2.58% share. So there's only 35 times this deck got played, but it has the highest win percentage out of all the decks that were played. So this could mean that people are gonna really run this, and this could mean that this might be the best deck. This could be the best deck in the set so far. We'll see how next week goes, but if you want to get ahead of the game, it seems like this might be the deck. This guy went first out of 185, going 12 and 0. So let's look at his list. So Masapi from Japan, he's running 2 Froakie, 2 Greninja, 2 Suicune, 2 Giratina. So it's just funny how Giratina just gets placed into whatever deck and it ends up doing really well. 2 2 Arita. I could see there being a lot of healing. 1 Cyrus, 1 Mars, 1 Leaf, 2 Pokeball, 2 Rare Candy, 1 Giant Cape. So I wonder why this is doing so well. One thing I noticed about Suicune is that you are kind of waiting sometimes because, especially if you get first turn, it really stinks with Suicune. And you want Suicune obviously to be that first card you put in an active spot, but at times you're just kind of waiting, not doing anything. So I guess throwing in that Giratina just makes it so that you are building your energy on your Giratina while you're not doing anything because it takes so long to build up your Suicune, right? And then while the Suicune is in the active spot, you're building up to get a Greninja out. And then with the Greninja plus Giratina, you're hitting for 150, which kills most meta cards, you know? Because the high HP cards aren't really being used anymore, like Charizard, Dragonite, what else has like 180? Solgaleo, things like that haven't really been meta. So 150 is enough to knock out most of the meta cards right now. Let's see how this guy went. So he seems like he beat a very good variety of different decks. So it's not like he got a lucky draw and he was facing decks that he's good against. He pretty much beat like every kind of different deck that there is. So this is definitely a deck I want to try, and I think it's a deck you should try out. It might take a while to get used to piloting it. I don't think it's extremely straightforward. And then the thing with Giratina is that you always have to get used to the energy management, because you might be tempted to want to attack with Suicune, but it might be better to just generate that energy with Giratina instead. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes trying out this deck, and I want to see how popular it's gonna be. Let's see how it does in the win spread. So yeah, it does. It has a 71% win percentage against Espeon. So it has a 65% win percentage against Giratina Darkrai and 71 against Espeon. Oh, here's a bad thing though. It does bad against Suicune Greninja, which is the most popular deck. So we'll see how it goes. If it does bad against the most popular deck, but it also does extremely well against the second and third most popular deck, we'll see how people play around this. I still think it's worth it to try the Suicune Giratina deck, even though it does bad against Suicune Greninja, because I'm pretty sure Suicune Greninja's popularity is going to drop. So if this deck drops in popularity, that means the Suicune Giratina just becomes stronger. But if this becomes the popular deck for next week, let's see who beats it. Well, I mean, the Suicune Greninja beats it. So if you want to try to predict it, you could just stick to Suicune Greninja and hope that people end up playing Suicune Giratina a lot, and then you're for sure gonna beat it with Suicune Greninja. Who else does really? This Greninja Oricorio deck is actually doing well against so many good decks. So it seems like Greninja Oricorio does well against Giratina Darkrai and Suicune Giratina, so this also might be a deck that you should look out for and play, Greninja Oricorio. This beats out Silvally. Silvally Ramparts is kind of irrelevant though. Yeah, this Suicune Giratina deck was something I did not see coming, because usually I've been seeing that Suicune's been paired with obviously water decks, like even with Mantike, and then there's Palkia, there's Gyarados, but I didn't see it being paired with Giratina. I should have seen it because Giratina does get inserted into every deck, but it's super interesting to see that it's working well for that. I personally thought this Arceus Pichu deck was gonna do better, just because from my playtime with it, I was winning a ton, and I thought that this might be like a top deck, but it's only winning 51% of the time, which is not that great. And if you're just basing it off this data, it might not be worth it to exactly play. You're better off kind of using a different deck here. But let's see what else is here. Maybe the more odd decks. Is there anything doing well? Darkrai Arceus with a 57 win percentage. So is this the turbo one? Let's see who, the 8-2 guy. Yeah, so he's using a turbo Arceus Darkrai deck where you have Magby and Pichu. That's interesting. Two Kamalas. I wonder why he's adding 2 Kamalas. Why did he add 2 Kamalas there? I kind of want to know. How about this other guy? What did he have in his deck? Wow, he has a lot of babies. So this guy's pretty much making sure that he does not miss out on getting a baby in the active spot. So this guy has 4 babies just ready to go. 2 Darkrai, 2 Arceus, and 1 Kamala. That's funny. So Darkrai Arceus seems to be not that bad at all. It's doing really well. Charizard has dropped in popularity like crazy. Only 1% of people have been using it. And to make it even worse, it has a 31% win percentage. So I think we're witnessing the death of Charizard, which I'm fine with. It's 2-6 against Espeon, which is weird because last season when I was playing Espeon a lot, and I actually lost against Charizard a decent amount of times because like once they get to Charizard, and I felt like they just always got to Charizard so quickly, you just lose because he one-shots unless you're able to find your cape right away. He just one-shots your Sylveon and your Espeon. But yeah, I'm so happy that Charizard Sylveon is not going to be meta anymore. After this week and its week's data, there's probably going to be like 0 Charizard players by next week. But yeah, every other deck, I don't think it's fair to talk about them because there's not enough data. I mean, I'm looking at this Snorlax Holo deck and they have a 23% win percentage. I always felt like this deck was bad, even though some top players were playing it. Not only do I think it's bad, I think it's very slow, and if you're trying to grind rank points, it's the worst thing you could play because not everyone has so much time to play in ranked. So if you're trying to rack up points, there's no point in playing a deck that takes 10 minutes plus to play and you're not even guaranteed to win a lot. So not the best deck. But yeah, that is the first week's meta report. Things to take in about this is that Suicune Greninja is the most popular, but there could be a fall off because it does bad against Giratina Darkrai and it does bad against Espeon. And the sleeper pick deck of the week would be Suicune Giratina. Only issue is that it does bad against Suicune Greninja, which is the top deck, but it does really well against Giratina Darkrai and Espeon. So I think for next week or this week coming, you should probably try to use Suicune. I would say the 3 decks to use are between Suicune Giratina, Suicune Greninja, or just sticking to your typical Giratina Darkrai because it's just so consistent and it always does well. Another picks, top 4, I would put Greninja Oricorio to try out, and it's just been doing really well. Let me see who it does bad against though. Again, it does bad against Espeon Sylveon, so that's a bummer that it does bad against Espeon Sylveon, but we are seeing a little less of it, and we might see even less of it because it's not winning as much. It has like one of the lowest win percentages out of the top 3 decks here, so Greninja Oricorio might be the deck to play too. But yeah, that's the first meta report. I don't know why there wasn't an Ursa Day tournament. I thought there was going to be one, and we would have got a ton of information if we got to see that because there's literally like 500 to 1,000 people playing in that one, so we'd get a lot of data from that. But we still got a decent amount of data for the first week of Secluded Springs, and yeah, I hope you guys were able to take something out of this, and I hope it's going to help you guys in your ranked battle and your grind, whether you're trying to go for top 1,000, top 5K, top 10K, trying to hit Master Ball, trying to hit Ultra Ball, whatever it may be. This is the metadata, and I think we got a good idea of what could be the top tier 1 decks right now. All right, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Enjoy, take care, have a good rest of your week. Peace.